This is where the bulk of our stem cell research was being done, but due to the government ban, we're mostly just packing things up.
Doctor, can you tell me exactly how stem cells work?
Look, you have trillions of cells in your body. Heart cells, skin cells, brain cells, and so on. But before a cell is designated as a toenail cell or a pancreas cell, it's what we call a stem cell. Sort of like a blank cell, do you understand?
Not at all, but go on.
Because these cells are blanks, they will often program themselves based on what cells you put around them. You see this rat? Earlier this year, we surgically removed the middle of her spine. Then we injected her with some stem cells and they became the missing part of the spine.
My God.
Nerve cells damaged by Parkinson's disease or heart tissue of cardiac patients might ultimately be replaced by tissue grown from stem cells.
So then, could stem cells be used on someone whose muscle tissue is wasting away? In other words, if a little boy was dying from a muscular disease, the stem cells could become new muscle tissue.
That's the theory.
Well, so then, if the stem cells were placed next to a Shakey's Pizza, there would become another Shakey's Pizza, and you'd have your own Shakey's Pizza where you didn't have to charge yourself to eat.
Well, no, to build another Shakey's, it would be better to use lumber. But, unfortunately, the government has banned stem cell research, and so we'll never know.
Looks like somebody's gonna have to try and change the government's mind.
Where are you going?
There's a pretty brave kid fighting for his life in the hospital right now, Doctor. I'm gonna go get him some bigger boxing gloves.
Stem cell research began in 1998 when scientists learned how to remove stem cells from human embryos, which resulted in both excitement and controversy. The excitement was due to the huge potential these cells had in curing human diseases. This is due to stem cell research perhaps being the most exciting medical technology of the 21st century, as it holds the promise of treatments and cures for more than 70 major diseases and conditions that affect millions of people, including diabetes, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cancer, multiple sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease, spinal cord injuries, blindness, and HIV/AIDS. However, the controversy centered on the moral implications of destroying human embryos. Political leaders began to debate over how to regulate and fund research involving human embryonic stem cells. In 1998, President Bill Clinton requested a National Bioethics Advisory Commission to study stem cells. This led to ultimately more national attention coming to stem cell research. When George W. Bush took office, he was against it because it involved the destruction of embryonic cells. Ultimately, many ethical questions were raised. Does life begin at fertilization, in the womb, or at birth? Is a human embryo equivalent to a human child? Does a human embryo have any rights? Might the destruction of a single embryo be justified if it provides a cure for a countless number of patients? Since embryonic stem cells can grow indefinitely in a dish and can in theory still grow into a human being, is the embryo really destroyed? First, let's look at the side of the controversy that is against stem cell research. The argument put forth by those against stem cell research is that they argue that the ethical issues of the scientific work on aborted fetuses do not justify the possible benefits. They claim a life is a life and that should never be compromised. A fertilized egg should be valued as a human life even if it's in its very first few weeks. Destroying human life in the hopes of saving human life is not ethical. Also, many critics claim that the scientific value of stem cell research has been overstated or has flaws, as we do not know for sure that we can use stem cells to clone transplantable organs. Ultimately, we will hear the personal and national reasons of Americans in these upcoming clips.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm currently I'm a rising senior at Yale. I just finished my junior year. I was born and raised in Toronto, but now I live in Florida with my family, and I'm studying biomedical engineering. I've done a little bit of work with stem cells and stem cell research for the last year and a half or so. Last summer, I worked at a lab in the Harvard Stem Cell Institute, where I researched lungs and lung stem cell types. And I currently work in a lab at Yale that does some lung engineering and also works with similar types of stem cells. In general, I'm someone who believes that stem cell research is an important part of scientific growth and should be supported and funded in the scientific community. And I guess my reasons for supporting stem cell research are that when you use stem cells, you're able to target diseases and treat diseases in a more specific patient-by-patient basis So, for example, in my research, we are trying to build lungs that can be used for lung transplant. And if we couldn't use stem cells, then the lungs that we would build would probably be rejected by the patients when we transplanted them. So the use of stem cells allows us to like avoid all of these complications that normally exist and really do science in like totally new ways that are like way more advanced and way better for patients and for scientists. Um, in general, I know there's a lot of ethical concerns about stem cells, but there's been a lot of recent developments that have kind of prevented some of these. So one is iPS cells, which stands for induced pluripotent stem cells. They were developed, I think, in 2013 by this guy named Yamanaka. He won the Nobel Prize for it. And so, like, some of the concerns with stem cells are that they're isolated from like human embryos, so like they might be destroying life, or like the possibility of stem cells can be scary. But these cells are like created from fibroblast cells, which are like adult cells that have already differentiated. So he figured out a way to like turn like normal skin cells back into stem cells. So there's no embryo concerns, and it like doesn't destroy life or anything like that. He just takes advantage of like the properties inherent already in every kind of cell. So I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. And like I said before, it's really helping technology grow in lots of cool new ways. I'm not too familiar with some, so like the way that I've used stem cells is to like prevent rejection is like the big thing. So like when you get like a heart transplant, or when you get like a kidney transplant or something like that, sometimes like, or like even when you get a blood transfusion, the biggest problem is like rejection. So like your body, the cells in your body are different from the cells that are being donated to you. And so stem cells can prevent that problem, because you can like build a kidney with cells that are the same as the ones that the person has. So like you can prevent that rejection thing. So that's like one big advantage of stem cells. So it's not really like a disease, but just like a general problem. Okay. The other like way that stem cells are really cool is that you can, so if you want to like test a drug on like cells that have diabetes or something like that, you can build them with stem cells. So like
Amendment 2 claims it bans human cloning, but in the 2,000 words you won't read, it makes cloning a constitutional right. Don't be deceived.
Californians agreed to spend $6 billion on the exact same science. Now they admit there won't be any cures for at least 15 years. Same science, $6 billion, no cures. Beware of loopholes. Missourians will pay. Don't be tricked.
Amendment 2 actually makes it a constitutional right for fertility clinics to pay women for eggs. Low-income women will be seduced by big checks, and extracting donor eggs is an extremely complicated, dangerous, and painful procedure.
25 women have died, and 6,000 have complained of complications. Missouri, don't be fooled.
Why does it cost $28 million to convince Missourians that an amendment to the Constitution is good for them? Maybe because it's not. Don't be bought.
You know now. Don't do it. Vote no on 2.
Good evening. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time tonight so I can discuss with you a complex and difficult issue, an issue that is one of the most profound of our time. The issue of research involving stem cells derived from human embryos is increasingly the subject of a national debate and dinner table discussions. The issue is confronted every day in laboratories as scientists ponder the ethical ramifications of their work. It is agonized over by parents and many couples as they try to have children or to save children already born. The issue is debated within the church, with people of different faiths, even many of the same faith, coming to different conclusions. Many people are finding that the more they know about stem cell research, the less certain they are about the right ethical and moral conclusions. My administration must decide whether to allow federal funds, your tax dollars, to be used for scientific research on stem cells derived from human embryos. A large number of these embryos already exist. They are the product of a process called in vitro fertilization, which helps so many couples conceive children. When doctors match sperm and egg to create life outside the womb, they usually produce more embryos than are implanted in the mother. Once a couple successfully has children, or if they are unsuccessful, the additional embryos remain frozen in laboratories. Some will not survive during long storage. Others are destroyed. A number have been donated to science and used to create privately funded stem cell lines, and a few have been implanted in an adoptive mother and born, and are today healthy children. Answers. Many argue these embryos are byproducts of a process that helps create life, and we should allow couples to donate them to science so they can be used for good purpose instead of wasting their potential. Others will argue there's no such thing as excess life, and the fact that a living being is going to die does not justify experimenting on it or exploiting it as a natural resource. At its core, this issue forces us to confront fundamental questions about the beginnings of life and the ends of science. It lies at a difficult moral intersection, juxtaposing the need to protect life in all its phases with the prospect of saving and improving life in all its stages. As the discoveries of modern science create tremendous hope, they also lay vast ethical minefields. As the genius of science extends the horizons of what we can do, we increasingly confront complex questions about what we should do. We have arrived at that brave new world that seems so distant in 1932, when Aldous Huxley wrote about human beings created in test tubes in what he called a hatchery. In recent weeks, we learned that scientists have created human embryos in test tubes solely to experiment on them. This is deeply troubling, and a warning sign that should prompt all of us to think through these issues very carefully.
Although many are against stem cell research, there are those that are also for stem cell research. This can be seen in a cost-benefit analysis where they claim the benefits of stem cell research have such a great outcome that they outweigh the ethical issues. They also claim if someone is going to have an abortion, isn't it better that we use it for something useful? The research provided by stem cell research would give great insights about to the basics of the body, and as stated previously, would help cure many diseases. Life-saving stem cell treatments are already successful and in widespread use for some diseases. For example, bone marrow transplants use stem cells to treat leukemia. Stem cell research could lead to treatments that save millions of lives and improve the quality of life for millions more. Scientists are working on a wide range of stem cell-based therapies. They have created tissue patches for burn victims. They have grown islet cells that produce insulin to treat diabetes and healthy brain cells to ease the symptoms of disorders like Parkinson's disease. They have genetically changed cells and then used them to deliver healing or protective agents to injured or diseased areas of the body. These are just a few examples of what stem cell research can provide for us. In these upcoming clips, we'll be able to dive deeper into the reasons for stem cell research.
How long was I in there?
About 5 minutes.
Why are we not funding this?
With the clinical rotations program. I've been a nurse since 1997, and I worked several places. One of those places was St. Jude's Children's Research Center in Memphis, Tennessee. And there they did do stem cell research. It was very interesting and state-of-the-art, and they have come up with a lot of advancements in treatment of cancer because of stem cell research. I would say I'm definitely for stem cell research. I think anybody in the medical world would tell you they are because it's new and it's exciting because they can go in and fix things that we could never fix before. So I definitely think that with stem cell research, we have the possibility to cure cancer and allow people that don't have a kidney to get a kidney because they can grow them now, and it's just a wonderful aspect in medicine. It's still so new, but I think it's wonderful. I know there's a lot of ethical things that they say about, you know, the testing, and they think they're murdering embryos and things, but I don't see it that way. And I think a lot of scientific brains would not see it that way. Okay?
Hi, I'm Hina Jawani, and I teach religious education at a local Jamaat Khana here in Plano. A lot of times stem cell research can be a controversy, can be a very controversial topic depending on what perspective you're looking at and how people take this research to be. I know a lot of religious perspectives can look as if they are against stem cell research. Some of the arguments that have been made towards that are that God does things for a reason. He makes people the way they are for a certain reason, and kind of messing with God's creation, or the fact that he's created something a certain way, or decided to, have somebody be born with Down syndrome or something, is going against God's commands. A lot of religious, I don't know if I want to say a lot of religious people think that, but the arguments that religious people can use against stem cell research are the ones that while a lot of religions may say that scripture or their beliefs or whatever reasons they have are against stem cell research, and they can completely believe that, and certain scriptures can convey that message. However, I believe that religions can also be interpreted in certain ways. I know within Islam, Islam promotes education. It promotes making the world a better place. Something like stem cell research can do that, and which is why a lot of Muslim communities research stem cell research. I mean, they are pro stem cell research because of that. There is the Aga Khan University Hospital that does intensive research in this area. They are pro as well. So while it's easy to say that religions take a anti-stem cell research approach, you can also see that a lot of times that might be just a personal belief or a certain interpretation of that religion.
After considering both sides of the argument, we ultimately believe that stem cell research should be practiced, as we feel the benefits that could potentially arise from it ultimately outweigh the flaws. Also, the many diseases that can be cured from stem cell research show the great advancements that now are occurring within. The fact that stem cells have two unique qualities, that they can copy themselves for an unlimited period of time and that they can grow into all the body's different cells types, just show that they're the endless possibilities that can arise from stem cell research. We believe that the use of embryonic stem cell research has infinite value, as it could help us understand human development and the growth and treatment of diseases. Although actual cures are many years away, as research has not progressed to the point where even one cure has been generated by embryonic stem cell research, over 100 million Americans suffer from diseases that eventually may be treated more effectively or even cured with embryonic stem cell therapy. Stem cell research can ultimately become the greatest way to alleviate human suffering, as the proper moral and religious course of action is to save existing life through embryonic stem cell research. We advocate for the continued use of stem cell research.